Right. I'm hitting record.
Oh boy.
Oh boy. Okay, so we're gonna try this. So we are on a phone together, and then you're zooming in on a different phone.
Okay.
So hopefully this audio works.
Boy.
And your name is Doug.
Correct.
And you helped out both of your parents. You were a caregiver for a period of time. Your mom passed away last fall.
No, 2017, June 3rd, 2017.
So it's been a few years.
Been, just over 3 years.
And then your dad moved to assisted living recently?
No, he's been in assisted living for a couple of years.
See, I have no facts straight, so this is really good.
No, Smalls. It was all on my email. I had all that on my email. You need to prep yourself on that email. Maybe Smalls.
Oh, I texted you, or I messaged you, you're killing me, Smalls, and now you're throwing it back at me.
Exactly. You're 0 for 3 on facts. We can compensate.
That's all right. I hope that's all right. So I wanted to, we were briefly talking about your family situation, and there are so many people that are out there helping out parents, and they don't necessarily feel like they're a caregiver per se. And I was just wondering, I don't know if you would be willing to share some of what that experience was like for you. Did you feel like a caregiver?
Well, as we've discussed before, I came from a long-term care background, remember?
Yeah.
So I know what a caregiver is in lots of shapes and ways and forms, whether it's I'm getting paid as a med aid or whether I'm getting paid as an administrator in an assisted living, which I was. Caregivers come in many forms, shapes, and sizes, as you well know.
Yeah.
We must have some nurturing in us, right, in our makeup. I took care of my folks. It started well before any of that. It started probably in 2010 when you just start assuming, hey, Dad, I'll mow the yard. You're tired of your man at your latest lawn service. I'll mow the yard, save you the money. Hey, Dad, I'll start removing the snow. So it starts off with a lot of physical assistance so they can, save money and or stay in their house.
Right.
And that just grew and grew and grew, and it was by offer to do that. Nobody made me do it. Nobody. They were happy to keep, contracting out to pay people to do that. I had a younger sibling that, for whatever reason, chose not to help at all in the same city. But as that grew, that turned into more and more. Then at some point, Mom lost her car keys. And so what? I lost car keys. So Mom lost her car keys again 2 weeks later, and then we thought, Mom hadn't been to the doctor since she gave birth to my younger brother, so she didn't like doctors, didn't want to go.
Wow.
That's kind of common. So we knew something was wrong. I knew that it was 50 plus types of dementia. I was pretty sure, given my experience in long-term care, that it was dementia. We had dementia on the mom side of the family, and so got Mom to go to the doctor and got the CAT scan, got all the tests, all that. And it came back, as we suspected, with vascular dementia, which is not as prevalent as Alzheimer's. But nonetheless, by the time we got that diagnosed in 2014-ish, 15-ish, she had probably, given a 10-year run, she was probably already halfway through that. But anyway, so there was kind of the starting point as far as, okay, now I need to take grocery shopping. Now we need to do more and more. And then my dad was still kind of working part-time, as he called it, basically hiding out at the office for 8 hours a day to get away from it. So that evolved into home health, bringing home health in. And that evolved into selling the house and going into independent living with them in the same apartment. with independent living here in town. And that didn't last too long. And we already knew that we knew what the plan was going to be. We chose a facility or an independent location that had a memory care facility right next door, because we knew that Mom, that's what she was going to end up being. So I suspect it lasted in the independent. She might have lasted a few months. And then she had to, because of the wandering, she figured out how to get that door unlocked. That's it. So then we moved Mother next door. Dad remained. So we moved from Mom moved next door into assisted living memory care. We moved Dad from 2-bedroom to 1-bedroom independent. So for about a number of years there, it seemed like I was a professional mover.
Right. Yeah. Hauling stuff around.
To sell the house, and then Mom passed away probably a year after that in the assisted living. And then Dad, 2 years ago this Christmas, had a stroke. And so that move, after he went out to a rehab place that we both know, he was out there X number of months, weeks, 5 weeks, whatever it was. But so we during that time, we moved his stuff from the 1-bedroom independent to the assisted living side. So when he came back from stroke rehab, he was into assisted living. And that's where he is today at age 89.
So were your parents part of the decision-making process? I mean, you said we had decided that they would move to independent living, or
my dad was ready to move 30 years ago. My mom was definitely not part of it. She had adamant she would have fought it physically. Oh. We actually, it's one thing about dementia. You forget the bad stuff as well.
Sure.
So she didn't remember who Dad was. 58 years of marriage wiped off the memory banks, and that was hard on Dad. She remembered who I was. She remembered my daughters, her granddaughters. But we pretty much kept her physically busy outside the house, and we were able to sell the house, have an estate sale, and physically move her into the independent side without her really knowing what was going on per se. You painted it, hey Mom, we're gonna live here temporarily. It's kind of like a hotel. We're gonna, a little or journey or whatever you paint it. And she bought that for a while, but then she started to wander. And luckily they had they don't really call it an adult daycare program anymore, but they had a day program while she was in the independent. 2-bedroom that we were able to take her during the day over there while Dad went down to the office and slept. And
wow.
But the point of it is that was a great service, because it helped her transition. So the day, I'll never forget the day we moved her physically from the independent to the assisted, the gal that she had known during those 6-8 hours of daycare, adult daycare, whatever we call it now. It was great. She seamlessly went in and went to got her own room, and really not an issue at all. But she was never part of it. She was part of it a few years earlier when we updated the wills as far as powers of attorney, healthcare power of attorney, the DNR. She was involved in that physically, but mentally had no grasp.
Right.
Dad was part of it all along. He was all for it. But then knowing the dynamics of my family, for 58 years of marriage, my mom wore the pants. So so that changed. But Dad was all for it. Dad has no problem giving up the car keys. As a matter of fact, he gave up his car keys.
Wow.
He knew he knows when it's time. He may be one of the few, I don't know, but given reality over independence is big with Dad. He said, I can't drive anymore. Here's the car.
Wow.
So Dad was never an issue that way. Mom, totally opposite. She, towards the end of her being with it, was adamant about, don't you ever move me out of my house. I'll go kicking and screaming, I'll kill you, blah, 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 blah. She was adamant about never leaving her house. So it's quite a feat to look back and see how that all unfolded. But to answer your question, she wasn't a part of it.
Well, I think you touched on two really important things. The first one is that people are aware that respite care is available, but they're really reluctant to utilize it.
I would recommend respite care all day long for numerous reasons. Like you said, the obvious is give somebody a break. Two, to acclimate them to what's possibly coming down the road. I am a firm believer in respite care.
And it sounds like she, the drop off and pickup from there went okay.
Yeah.
On your
it was, like I said, having I can't tell you how my parents come from a generation of, there were no assisted livings, there were no independent livings. There were no home health. There was no respite. They know nothing about that.
Right.
They came from a generation that the nursing home was placed on the edge of town where people go to die and removed from society.
Right.
That's the generation they came from. Okay.
Yeah.
So luckily, and I do mean luckily, or by chance, I had 10 years of experience in that business, in that industry. So I knew kind of how to navigate keep it a step ahead. Proactive instead of reactive. So, you take the temperature, so we had to get the wells in place, get everything updated. We do our due diligence of looking at facilities. The home health it took a couple ladies to get a fit for her. My mom was very difficult. But luckily I knew who to go to, who not to go to. I knew the resources available to me, or to us, or to my dad. And I was happy to do it.
Yeah. Well, I think the second thing that you touched on was the actual move. People are really reluctant to move their loved one because it's exactly like what your mom was saying, like over my dead body. Like, I'm going out of this house feet first. So it sounds like the transition went okay.
Well, very smooth. As I mentioned, Dad's job was physically put Mom in the car, go drive her around. She doesn't know where she's at. Go drive her around. Go out here. Go out to Seward. Go. That was his job, and we were able to think about that, the magnitude of that. Think about, and this was a big house on Woodsdale Boulevard. This was since 1974, the accumulation of all their antiques and possessions and junk. So think about the magnitude of that. We were able to remove Mom from the situation, bring in the realtor, bring in changing spaces. I don't know if I'm supposed to mention names or not, but I recommend them as well. To get everything moved out. They choose a good moving company, and the companies like changing spaces. They're great. I recommend them too. They help box up the stuff, move the stuff, unbox, and actually put it in the dressers in the facility. Stuff that I don't want to do. I don't have time to do.
Right.
And then spend a week or two marking all the stuff that the kids didn't want, that Dad didn't want, that they didn't have room for the estate sale, have the estate sale, and close on the house without Mom ever being a part of it, one way, shape, or form or another.
And that was
amazing.
Yeah, that is amazing. And she was already moved into the independent living with your dad.
Yeah.
And
so we were able to accomplish that stuff when we obviously it's an ABC, right?
Right.
So A is get them moved in, and A was get stuff moved in prior to her physically moving in.
Mm-hmm.
Get the bed ready, get all that stuff ready. So when she came through that door for the first time on the independent side, we you validate, right? We're not going to argue whether she thinks the sky's red, the sky's red.
Right.
She thinks she's not married, she's not married. We don't create more anxiety by arguing. So luckily she had this concept that this was kind of temporary, hotel stay. Right. Oh, absolutely, Mom. No problem. And that worked for a while, but once she figured out the lock, then luckily during that period of time at the independent, she was in the respite. So then that transition was really seamless. Going from independent to assisted living memory care was virtually pull up, open the door. Here come two of the gals that she's familiar with, very comfortable with.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, sure. And by the time I'm getting out of my car, she's already gone inside with them.
Right.
So we were very fortunate. Very fortunate. Quite honestly, very fortunate in how, you know, Megan, we talk about our past and the long-term care, and you and I and me, everything. I've seen a lot worse family situations. Let's just say that in a lot of different ways over my years of experience, and this comparatively was, I would say, I hate to say it, I don't want to seem callous or uncaring, but it went off without a hitch.
Mm-hmm.
Because at the end of the day, you know, working, being a sandwich generation, still parenting, being involved in a lot of other things, there's no way I could have taken care of my folks any more than what I had to up until that point.
Right.
Physically, emotionally, mentally, I was done. So, and Dad, this was already part of the plan. You know, I was going to play the first part, home health the second part, and then I told him, I said, at that point, we will have to consider moving. Dad was all in.
Yeah.
But we were very blessed in how that all unfolded, almost to the T as we planned. A lot of times it doesn't work that way.
Well, do you have any suggestions or words of wisdom for someone who's at home caring for their loved one, really, really struggling, and they're pretty down and out about all of the circumstances?
Oh, absolutely. First of all, don't feel guilty.
Mm.
I think guilt overwhelms the people. They feel guilty if they, first of all, even think about moving mom or dad out, or they feel overwhelmed.
Yeah.
Or they might feel anger, the sibling thing, not getting help from siblings. I've been there, done that. I think the main thing is just to be aware of the resources available, who to talk to, who to go to find out how to navigate this road, and make a plan. Sit down and actually make a plan. ABC 1, 2, 3.
Mm-hmm.
And be flexible, because health can change like that, as we all know.
Right.
But if you don't make a plan of some sort, and I mean, you know, I'm old school, as you know, paper, pencil. I guess we could talk, you know, speaking into a smartphone, but make a plan. Because if you don't, your mind is just going to race with all this chatter, all that monkey noise, and you're going to get overwhelmed. Take your own temperature. Take the temperature of the situation, and start with all the legal side of it. What siblings are involved? What siblings are going to be in charge? What aren't? Who's not? And find out. I strongly recommend powers of healthcare.
Yes.
Today to enforce DNRs and to enforce living wills. It used to be that was enough, but not anymore. So once you figure that out, and then you just vet your home health if you need home health. If you need a facility of assisted living and or skilled nursing, ask for their states. Ask for their state surveys, their most recent surveys. They have to give them to you. Word of mouth. Use resources. There's so many resources out there today that will help you get through this that weren't available not that long ago, whether it's actual placement or more support as far as the emotional, mental toll that this takes, like yourself. You know, there's so many options today versus, you know, I got into this business in 20 years ago.
Right.
There wasn't this, there's a lot more options available, so just know what they are.
Well, thank you very much. I think you gave so much valuable information here today. I mean, you really did. I think you touched on so many of the key points that I'm seeing in these caregiver support groups that people are just really struggling with. And so I think this was really helpful.
Well, I hope so. That's the point. I mean, I want to help people, and you and I are on that same page. And like I said, you know, being in the industry obviously helped me live through it firsthand, so that was a plus.
Well, and for me, it was living through it led me to the industry.
There you go.
So that was my blessing. But Thank you. Sorry that we had
Yeah.
technical difficulties, but
No, we got through it. And listen, if you need anything else or whatever, let's stay in touch.
that sounds great. I appreciate it.
Okay.
All right.
care.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.